Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So in this tutorial, I'm going to show you how to make these adorable Easter meringues. So I've done a few meringue tutorials already and you can find them on my channel, but this is going to be a little bit more particular with how I pipe the meringue. And I'm going to try something new, which I've never actually tried before, which you will see further along in the tutorial. So to start off, I'm going to make the meringue, and as you know, I make a Swiss meringue. What does that mean? It's double the amount of sugar to egg whites. So in my bowl here, I've got 150 grams of egg whites. And here I've got 300 grams of sugar, double the egg whites. And that can go straight into the bowl with the egg whites. And I'm gonna mix this together. So once the sugar and egg white has come together, I'm gonna move it over to my bain-marie, which is a pan of simmering water. So I'm gonna put the bowl on top, like this. And so obviously, if I were to leave this and do other things, we're gonna get a little bit of sweet scrambled eggs. So we actually have to watch this and keep it moving. So you don't have to mix it as vigorously as you were just before, but just to make sure that the temperature remains even as it's heating. Also, a really important thing, especially when making meringue, is that you want to make sure that all the sugar is melted. So the whole time you're heating it up, you want to make sure you clean down those sides using the spatula. So like I said, the idea is to melt all the sugar in. Now for my buttercream, I always bring it up to a specific temperature to pasteurize the egg whites and make them safe to eat. However, because I'm making meringue, we don't necessarily need to hit that exact temperature because they're going to be going into the oven. However, I know that still at 63 to 65 degrees Celsius, the sugar has melted. And when you're bringing it up to that temperature, you get a beautiful glossy meringue. So I'm still gonna bring it up to that temperature, but if you don't have a thermometer, you can just check that the sugar's melted by dipping your finger in and feeling that all the sugar grains. But I personally think a better meringue is formed when you reach it to 63, 65 degrees Celsius. So I'm gonna keep mixing, keep cleaning the sides down until the temperature gets there. So it reached temperature and I kept those sides nice and clean using my spatula. I'm just gonna do one more wipe around because I just like to scrape any egg white from the sides down into the middle before I put it onto the mixer. It's gonna go on to high speed for 5 minutes until a beautiful glossy meringue is formed. Oh, my favorite bit, this beautiful meringue. And that is the exact consistency you want. You want it nice and thick, but when you pick up the whisk, it's got this lovely curve on it. And that is the perfect consistency to pipe with. So what I'm going to do is divide it into a few bowls and color it accordingly and fill up some piping bags ready to pipe. So I've stuck to all Easter colours here, nice and pastel, and you've noticed I've actually kept the piping bags quite flat. And this is because it's really good to pipe meringue with as little air bubbles in as possible, and meringue can start to collapse if it's left. By flattening it out like this reduces the air bubbles, and then as I pipe, I'll form it back into the cone of the piping bag. So what I've got here are a few trays and some sheets of baking paper. Now my favorite tip to stick the baking paper down is using some leftover meringue from my spatula and just brushing it in each corner. And the reason why you want your paper stuck down is firstly, it makes it easier to pipe, but also because meringue is so light in the oven, the paper can actually fly around and you don't want that. And then paper goes on, and I can stick it down to the meringue, and that's not going anywhere. So the first shape I'm going to make are some flowers. So I'm going to use some pink, some yellow, and some orange for these. So I'll start off with the pink, and obviously it's flat, so now I can push it into the piping position, holding it in the palm of my hand, and the pressure is going to be coming from my fingers. Whenever you're piping for these, your hand has to stay perpendicular to the tray. So facing down quite close to the tray, I'm going to squeeze and continue squeezing while dragging it into the center, squeezing a little bit less, stop squeezing and off. And that's one petal of the flower. I'm gonna do the same again from here. Squeeze into the middle and off. And I'm coming off in the same direction as I'm piping because I don't want to peak. And keep going until all the flour is piped. And then to finish with a little orange circle in the middle. Keep it as flat as possible, similar to how you would pipe a macaron. Squeeze, stop squeezing, and come off. So I wasn't sure whether to go 5 or 6 petals with the flowers, but I've got some yellow to do the exact same thing. I think I quite like the chunkier petals rather than the thinner ones. So exact same thing, but I'm gonna squeeze a little bit more and keep the petals shorter. And finish these off with a center as well. So I managed to get 2 smaller pink ones out of this, and I actually think I prefer the smaller flowers. But like I said, you could do any size you want. These are gonna go in an oven for at least 2 hours, which just dries them out longer. So you can put the different sizes on the same tray. And the important thing when you're doing a flat pattern is to just make every piping action the same pressure and the same thickness, or at least as much as you can. So there the flowers done. Now I'm gonna move on to some little bunnies. So same again, just using a bit of meringue to stick the paper down. So this time I've kept the meringue white. I'm gonna make it a cone again. And I'm gonna do something quite similar like I did with the flowers, but kind of 2 petal shapes next to each other as the bunny is. So I'm using a slightly bigger hole than I did for the flower petals. And I'm gonna squeeze and drag downwards and squeeze and drag downwards. And these are our bunny ears. They kind of look like hearts to begin with, just a bit longer. So now I've got some pink meringue in a star-shaped tip to do the inserts. So I'm gonna squeeze and drag. It's just nice to introduce some texture here. And if there's any leftover meringue on the tip, you can always just wipe it on the side to clean it. Still keeping that meringue nice and flat. So they already look like bunny ears, but just to tidy up the very bottom, I'm gonna go on with a few little pipe details. Just like those cakes when you see the bunny ears or a unicorn horn or any other ears coming out of a cake and then you've got all those piping details, I'm gonna do the same thing with the meringue. So I'll do a collection of little rosettes and stars. And I've actually got a small leaf tip here that I'm just gonna add for a bit more color. Squeezing and dragging. Now they look more like flowers at the base. So you've got a little bunny ears, and now they need some carrots. So I've got a star tip with some orange meringue in, and I'm gonna do a row of swirls for my carrot. So start off small, loop over, come a bit wider, and the last one, the widest, and finish off. Do a couple more. I've got a larger leaf tip with green meringue, and I'm simply going to make the tops of the carrots by squeezing, pulling away, and off. Nice and easy to get that leaf top effect. So I've got my cute little shapes ready, and now I'm gonna do something which I've never tried before, but I saw somewhere once and I've wanted to try it since, and it's actually to make a meringue basket, which I think is so cool, and also something cute to put all of these into when you're presenting it. So hopefully it will work. And to do this, what I've actually got is my turntable underneath a tray to help me turn this around, a bowl which is oven proof, so you can use a glass or metal bowl. And what I'm gonna do is place some paper around it because I'm gonna use the bowl as my mold. But to stick the paper on, I'm gonna use some meringue, so it's nice and snug against the bowl shape. So just spread some on. And I've got some crumpled paper, crumpled because it keeps the shape better. I'm gonna drape it over the bowl try and get it as snug as possible. And I may even tuck it under. So now I've got some turquoise meringue with a 2B tip, which is a flat groove tip, which I'm going to create the basket with. And I'm just going to pipe around the whole bowl, bake it, and hopefully it will come off as one. So I'm gonna start on the top and work my way down. To start, I'm going on the top of the bowl and creating a flat surface. So it doesn't have to be perfectly piped here. It just has to be flat, because obviously this is what the bowl's gonna be resting on. So I'm gonna do a spiral. That's good enough. And now I'm gonna create the basket. So starting from the top, I'm gonna squeeze and make my way down to the base of the bowl, and then pipe 3 lines across. Or 2 lines, because I think that's all I can fit. Now pipe a line over, and repeat. And continue until I've piped around the whole bowl. And I'll just do 2 to finish off, and this can be the back. And then just to make sure it's nice and secure, I'm gonna do a piped border around the bottom, which also adds a pop of color as well. Wow, that required quite a lot of concentration, but it's done. Something I did notice is because I've obviously had the meringue out for a while, when I was piping the basket, it didn't hold its shape as good as these did. So something to bear in mind if you did want to make something like this, maybe pipe it freshly having made the meringue. I hope it's gonna cook well. So these are all gonna go in the oven at 100 degrees Celsius. I'm going to leave them in there for 2 good hours to make sure they're completely dry, especially the basket, and then it'll be the moment of truth of unmolding it. So these meringues were in the oven for 2 hours. I left the trays to completely cool, and the meringue has totally hardened. So all of them look so cute, and I can just pick them up, and they've dried out perfectly and held their shape. I love all these shapes, they've just come out really nicely, but this is the one I've been pretty scared to do. I'm gonna try and unmold it, so obviously being as careful as I can. I'm going to take the paper off first. Please work, please work. And then take the bowl. Moment of truth. My heart's beating so much right now. Oh, just at the end it broke! Oh, that's so annoying. Damn it. I think I can stick it back together. Not always things go to plan, but I'm glad I gave it a go. I'm not gonna try it again. I might try and salvage it with some buttercream and try and stick it together. Let me see. Rarely do I accept failures. That's really sad. I think the meringue is just too delicate. Just lifting that paper up, I kind of felt it crumble. Never mind. Firstly, it tastes delicious. And I've got all of these other meringues which look just as nice without the basket. But if you try out the basket and it works, please tell me, and maybe I'll try it again off camera. But let's have a look at these meringues firstly. Each and every one of them came out so well. Some of them have cracked a little bit, which is quite common in meringue. There's a few reasons for this. Firstly, I left the meringue sitting for quite a while, which isn't ideal. Also, there could have been some unmelted sugar crystals in the meringue, which kind of come out as this. To be honest, I really don't mind them. But look how gorgeous all these Easter meringues look together. So there we go, most of the Easter meringues that I had wished for. Shame the basket didn't work out. I think I might try it again another stage, but to be honest, these meringues still look cute in a gift box, or you can get a larger like cupcake box and fill them, or just like place them out over your Easter table as part of the decoration, decorate a cake in them. That's why I love meringue so much. It's so versatile, it's tasty on its own, it works as a dessert. You can pipe it into pretty much any shape. Give it a go, send me photos, tag me at George's Cakes on Instagram if you do try it out, and stay tuned for more cake decorating and baking tutorials. I hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you soon.